A pilgrimage usually evokes images of the faithful crowding each other out for a better view of the religious icon or monument they have come to see. Around Mount Kailash in remote southwest Tibet, each man and woman is rendered insignificant in the face of nature's vast canvas. This is a pilgrimage in the true sense of the word. A fortnight's journey to Mount Kailash combines pilgrimage and Himalayan hike. Yet it remains an experience transcending both. The overland journey up through the greenery of Nepal and into the high, dry plateau of Tibet to arrive at the astonishing sight of a lonely mountain above an immense lake will certainly feel like a pilgrimage. But it is the tough 3-day hike around the 6,700-meter Kailash, culminating in a 5,600-meter pass, that will remind you that your journey isn't done until you follow the footsteps of the most intrepid of travelers. Just as the city of Jerusalem is holy to Christians, Muslims and Jews, Kailash is holy to Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and adherents of the Bon faith. Yet, Kailash is far more than a religious site. The region around it is the source of some of the most important rivers in Asia. It is a place on earth like no other. No wonder that it has been seen as a gateway to paradise for millennia. On the shores of Lake Mansarover, which stretches out before Kailash, the traveler will feel he is in the other world. The journey to Kailash is a long one from wherever you begin. Most start in Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. Some choose to hopscotch across the country by plane and helicopter to arrive at Hilsa, at the far western border between Nepal and China, before driving to Kailash. Weather permitting, this is the quickest way to get there. The circuit from Kathmandu takes a total of 10 days. But this route is expensive and may not allow for adequate acclimatization. Kathmandu is at an altitude of 1,300 meters and Lake Mansarovar lies at 4,600 meters. Moving too quickly between these 2 points, not to mention the pass at 5,600 meters on the Kailash circuit, can pose a serious risk to the traveler's health. A more practical and economical option is the overland route up north from Kathmandu, heading west through the length of Tibet. This 20-day trip prepares the traveler better for the rigors ahead. It is also, literally and figuratively, a means of travel far closer to the ground. Moving up through the green foothills of the Himalayas, you will cross over the natural border between Nepal and China onto the Tibetan plateau, then traverse much of this vast dry expanse stopping at settlements along the way. By the time you reach Kailash, you will understand what it means not just to yourself, but to the people and the land around you. For Gunjan, her husband Neel and cousin Aruna travelling overland to Kailash, it couldn't have been soon enough. They've wanted to go to Mount Kailash for so long. Their journey began 4 months ago in the Caribbean island of Trinidad. Months of planning that included physical training and spiritual preparation were necessary in order to make this journey. Their journey took them to Gunjan's hometown of Delhi, and this is where we embark on their personal journey to holy Mount Kailash.
Finally here at Delhi's airport, leaving Delhi to go to Kathmandu, which is officially the start of our journey.
This place, particularly India Explored, this gave us the perfect start because it has like these big lingams and all the Indian spirituality attached here separately, which seems like such a perfect start because we are in that mindset now, and it has all kind of different books and different experience and lingam and a healing pool in the middle where we dipped our feet and our hands and we're feeling healed already a little bit. And from here we start, and we don't know how the journey would be, but this place has given us such positive vibration.
Finally arrived to Kathmandu, and it feels hot.
But not so hot, not hot like Delhi. It's nice and pleasant.
Maybe hot like Trinidad?
Yes.
Yes, exactly like Trinidad.
Now we're going to a hotel. There are people to receive us.
Once in Kathmandu, they don't waste any time to get a preview of the Himalayas. Mountain flights take off daily from Kathmandu airport and take you as close as you can get to the top of the world without actually climbing one of these 8,000-meter behemoths. In the 30-minute flight, passengers marvel at the incredible views of Mount Everest at 8,848 meters, the highest peak in the world, as well as its illustrious neighbors. 8 of the 14 8,000-meter mountains are in Nepal. Before departure, much like the Hindu pilgrims going to Kailash via Kathmandu, these travelers visit the important temple of Pashupatinath. This temple on the banks of the river Bagmati is dedicated to Shiva, one of the Hindu trinity of gods, and dates back to 400 AD. Since Mount Kailash is revered as the abode of Shiva and his consort, Parvati, Pashupatinath is the perfect place to start. The devout have been seeking Shiva for eons. The priest recounts an incident at the end of the Hindu epic, the Mahabharata. The group will be hoping Shiva blesses their journey to Mount Kailash. So, put their trust in the Rudraksha beads they have received at the end of their prayers.
I have no doubt now that we're going to have a most successful journey, and we were given these Rudraksha malas.
Rudraksha beads are emblems of Shiva. It is said that once Shiva opened his eyes after a long period of meditation and the extreme fulfillment made him shed a tear. This single tear from Shiva's eyes grew into a Rudraksha tree. And with that, they are off. For what has traditionally been viewed as a religious pilgrimage, there are some surprising sights to take in along the way. And what is a journey without the dread hand of bureaucracy is relieved to be done with the formalities at the Nepal-Tibet border and keen to move on.
Hi, so behind us is Friendship Bridge, the border between Nepal and Tibet, China, and we just crossed with some very strict immigration, very meticulous immigration. And our next stop is Nyalam, which is a very good place for acclimatization. We'll be there for a day.
It is at the border that the real overland trip begins. The group has arranged for a private trip and joins the crew from Lhasa, comprising an experienced driver, their guide and a cook. A well-equipped four-wheel drive and a supply truck will now make the long and arduous journey to Kailash. It's a long 885-kilometer haul from the border town of Jangmu to Kailash, and it will require 5 overnight stops. But there's plenty to see along the way. The Trans-Himalayan landscape makes for a dramatic contrast with the lush greenery of the Himalayan foothills to the south, thanks to the natural barrier formed by the Himalayas. The monsoon rains that water the Indian subcontinent turn back at the border. As a result, the Tibetan plateau is essentially a high-altitude desert. The prospects for agriculture are limited, and many Tibetans still rely on livestock to make a living in this harsh land. Tibet is not just remote, it looks like another world. The mountains are spectacular, the glaciated valleys are wide, and the horizon is vast and empty. For the most part, no houses, trees, or towns disturb the landscape. Here, in this infinite land, the mind reaches out to the horizon. Tibet is as big as it looks from the inside of a jeep, but there are barely 3 million people living here in a region twice the size of France. Prior to the Chinese annexation in 1950, trade across the southern borders was central to Tibet's economy, and nomadic Tibetans led caravans of yaks and sheep across high passes in the Himalayas to trade highland salt for rice from the south. Today, the caravan trade is dying, thanks to border restrictions and the easy availability of both Indian salt and Chinese rice. Some fear China's suppression of Tibetans, which resulted in mass killings and the wholesale destruction of monasteries during the Cultural Revolution of the 60s, threatens Tibet's very survival. But the Tibetan people are a resilient lot, and government resources have their own advantages, such as this road and infrastructural development throughout the region. Though traveling by car means a much more gradual ascent than by air, it is essential to take it slowly. Today is a rest day for the group, a rest day for the jeep, that is.
We're here at beautiful Nyalam. We arrived last night, went to bed, and woke up this morning to a hearty breakfast, and we are currently on our acclimatization.
Aruna, Gunjan and Neel have to get some practice while getting used to the altitude.
It was one hot climb back up because of the thin air here, and as you can see we are really breathless. but feeling really nice, really good. This environment is so charged with like bounty nature and streams flowing, and it's just, the camera cannot capture what we're seeing.
Back on the road, the weather seems to be mimicking how the group is feeling. But then the sky is clear, and so is the travelers' heads. Their excitement as they near Mansarover Lake and Mount Kailash is palpable.
Driving to Mansarovar now, Lake Mansarovar, which is one of the highest freshwater lakes. And from there, we'll go to our base camp from where we'll start the circumambulation. All of a sudden, the weather has changed and it has started to snow, as you could see. So we're getting there, but we're getting there very slow because of the sudden change in the weather. See you at Mansarovar.
And who would begrudge them such excitement? Mansarovar has to be seen to be believed.
So we just saw Mansarovar Lake. We are about 15 minutes away from reaching, but we are still able to see, and I wish you could see what we could see right now. All you see is the prettiest blue ever. So pretty. So eagerly awaiting these 15 minutes to go so that we can finally reach to Mansarovar.
The Tibetan plateau receives hardly any rain and less than 10 inches of snowfall a year. Yet here lies one of the richest freshwater lakes in the world, 4,610 meters above sea level. This incredibly beautiful lake, fed by the glaciers of the surrounding mountains, is 88 kilometers round and up to 70 meters deep. It is a haven for migratory birds such as bar-headed geese and Brahmini ducks, and along with its demon twin, Rakshastal, has immense hydrographic significance for the entire Indian subcontinent. The area around Kailash is a source to four of the longest rivers in Asia, the Indus, the Satluj, the Karnali, which is a major tributary to the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. The spiritual significance of Mansarovar, the 8-petaled lotus, cannot be overstated. For Buddhists, it is where Buddha sits, teaching the doctrine to the serpents that inhabit the lake. For Hindus, it is the very soul mana of Brahma, the creator of the universe. To take a ritual bath in its icy waters is to wash away the sins of a lifetime.
Mansarovar, and it was cold, but refreshing. I'm so blessed to be able to do this.
Equally impressive is Rakshastal across a ridge to the west. It holds far less significance to pilgrims, and they usually head straight onto Kailash. But for shamans and tantrics, the demon lake, described as black lake of poison in the shape of a hide conch made of human skin, it is a place of power. Whatever your beliefs, it is well worth making the trip to Rakshastal. Also worth seeing is the massif of Gurlamandatta to the south of these gigantic lakes at 7,700 meters, one of the highest mountains in the region. Mount Kailash, for its part, is hidden from the naked eye. Just as in the story told by the priest in Kathmandu, Shiva hid from the Pandavas when they sought his blessing. Neel's camera does a better job, and he's up and about early the next morning to view Kailash from the shores of the lake, determined to get his fill of the holy mountain. It's a sight to soothe the souls of believers and non-believers alike. The singular beauty of Mount Kailash and its lonely presence in the desolate Tibetan plateau must have played a part in convincing the devout that it was the abode of gods. The Hindu god Shiva is said to live on top of Mount Kailash, which is seen as the temporal counterpart of the cosmic center of the universe. Mount Meru. For Buddhists, the mountain is at the center of the mandala where the divinity Demchong resides. And the founder of the Jain religion, Rishabhantha, is said to have achieved spiritual liberation from the mountain. Its status as a haven on earth means the 6,714-meter mountain has never been climbed. This is in fact forbidden. Circumambulating Kailash, or doing the Kora, is a way of showing respect to the mountain and is the heart of a pilgrimage to the region. People have been coming here for thousands of years, and despite a period from the 1950s to the 1970s, during which the Chinese government stopped pilgrims from visiting, today thousands of pilgrims from across the region come to Kailash. Our small and determined group too is ready to move on from the peaceful surrounds of the Chiu Gumba for the most challenging part of their journey.
The stay here was very humbling. It makes you really appreciate some of the smaller things back home, like, you know, run hot water and a lot of basic things that we have. It's been nice, but we are ready to go to Darchan now.
In a sense, the 52-kilometer Kailash circumambulation, which starts from the Darchen and is ideally completed in 4 days, is a good old-fashioned high-altitude trek. For the Tibetan pilgrims who complete it in 36 hours, it is more of a romp, but such haste is not recommended for those unaccustomed to the altitude. The walk is mostly level, but at these altitudes, even minor inclines can be exhausting. It's best to take it slowly. With adequate mental and physical preparation, you will simply luxuriate in the natural beauty of the place. Culturally, too, there is plenty to take in. It is estimated that about 6,000 monasteries were destroyed across Tibet during the Cultural Revolution. The Gumpas around Kailash too suffered, but some have been restored or rebuilt next to some of the innumerable mythical sites on the circuit, such as the Nyenri Gumpa, the Driryafuk Gumpa, and the Zutrulfung Gumpa. With a knowledgeable guide, you will hear more tales of mythical yaks, spirits, hermits, wolves, and goddesses than you will have heard in your life. In any case, old habits die hard. Tibetan culture, as our group finds, is alive and well. Whatever your beliefs, it's a long and grueling walk. Aruna, Gunjan and Neel do not escape the effects of the altitude and the inhospitable terrain. Their journey is complicated by difficulty in breathing and chronic headaches during the toughest bits. But all agree that it's a small price to pay for the immeasurable rewards. Indeed, Tibetans are often to be seen performing a prostration kora around the mountain, a feat of the mind and body that can take several weeks. It is believed that one kora around Kailash cleanses the sins of one life. 13 circuits do away with the sins of one error, and 108 kora, if you were really single-minded that is, will grant you nirvana or moksha. Within this lifetime, only after you complete 13 circuits are you allowed to undertake the inner circuit of Mount Kailash, which brings you right to the base of the mountain. Even if you do not feel your sins are so easily disposed of, you will be amply compensated by the ever-changing views of the mountain. Kailash has 5 dimensions, it is said, which represent gateways to heaven. Only 4 can be perceived physically and are described in mythology as being made of crystal, ruby, gold and lapis lazuli. The 5th can only be seen with the eye of knowledge. For Neel, burdened with a camcorder, it's been more about focusing on what he can see on the trail and following the progress of his companions. The going hasn't been so easy. It's a good thing there are plenty of views to take in while you rest. And later, on the way up, a little mutual encouragement is necessary. But they are as determined as anyone else. The closer the group gets to Kailash, the more excited they get. If the air weren't so cool and thin, they would stay here forever. But all good things come to an end. And for Neel, Gunjan and Aruna, it's time to get back to their faithful 4-wheel drive, once it gets going, that is. For the travellers, it's time to say goodbye to Kailash. After such a long journey, it's an emotional moment.
Sad because we're leaving, but at the same time very lucky to have and fortunate to have had this experience.
But it's one with icing on the cake, literally. Mount Everest at 8,848 meters is the highest mountain in the world and straddles the border between Nepal and China. One can't help but feel insignificant in front of the magnificent Himalayan range, which has stood here since time immemorial. Saying goodbye to Everest, Lake Mansarover, and especially Mount Kailash was difficult. But equally hard is leaving friends that you have made on the trip. This trip to the roof of the world has been a supremely fulfilling one for Neel, Gunjan and Aruna, and a journey they will never forget. The warm welcome in Kathmandu, the long drive across the high plateau of Tibet, the arrival at Mansarover and the circuit around Kailash was a voyage of discovery as much of the land and the people around them as of their inner selves. As an Indian pilgrim said, "I had a picture in my mind of what it would be like, but when I came here, it was far beyond what I had imagined."
Honestly, what it looks from here, it's so different when you see it from close. It's magnificent, the grandeur, it's unbelievable. When we saw it coming up and when we're seeing it going back, it's a big difference because we saw it from the close. And the energy and everything, you can't see from such a distance. But we're just bidding farewell to Mount Kailash now, feeling very sad, but hope to come back again.
Everyone should come to Kailash and Mansarovar at least once.